I'm sorry, sir. I can't really understand you. Could you please speak up? Did you get quieter? No, I really can't understand a word you're saying. Okay, now you're just moving your mouth. You're not even saying anything. What's the point of this? The movie today.
Force of Execution.
Force of Execution. That title, extremely memorable. Definitely knew it.
I really had a hard time remembering it.
All right. So, Force of Execution.
What does it mean?
It is our first Steven
Seagal
Seagal movie.
I am so surprised that it's actually taken us this long to get to him.
Yeah, like 130-something episodes. We've never done a single one.
I mean, honestly, to be fair, we haven't. Have we done a Stallone movie?
If so, it's not jumping out at me.
And we haven't done a Schwarzenegger film.
No, we haven't.
Well, there's plenty of bad ones about it. We haven't done a Van Damme film either.
We don't hit the big ones, I guess.
I guess we're more like...
It's probably because bad action is not...
It's fun.
It's still fun, yeah.
But... we get to this movie.
All right, so Force of Execution. I'm just going to read the IMDb until it gets to the point where it's like, whatever's.
Yeah.
Force of Execution is a story about a crime lord, Steven Seagal as Mr. Alexander.
Mr. Alexander.
Torn between his legacy and his desire to get out of the life of... This is giving me insight I didn't get in the movie. Get out of the life of crime that he has built his empire. When a new player to the scene... what's his name?
Ving Rhames.
Ving Rhames as Iceman.
Iceman. The Iceman cometh.
When a new player to the scene tries to use his town's... Use the town anti-heroes network to climb to power. Who's the... Whatever. The only friend the crime lord has is...
This is supposed to be Roman?
I guess. Well, no, this is Roman. Is his assassin protege who has troubles of his own. Epic battle, blah, blah. Okay, so... The entire movie starts off with...
Now let's let you know what actually happens in the movie.
This movie starts off with a hit being put on a guy in jail. A guy named Hugh... Roman. I'm going to say Roman for now. He had a different name. Hurst. Hurst is an assassin guy that works underneath Steven Seagal's character.
William Randolph Hearst.
And he goes into jail, and the guy who's supposed to mark the guy to be killed marks a different guy. And nobody's happy with that. He's like, all right, we're forcing you to retirement, so we're going to torture you and fuck up your entire life.
Torture you, break all your hands.
Yep, all of them.
All of his hands.
2 years.
All of his feet, too.
Not 2 years. 6 months pass. And a war's coming because the guy who marked him knew that he marked the wrong guy as he was trying to start up a war. And so
because he wants to take over.
And so Alexander, because it's his neighborhood.
For the neighborhood.
Neighborhood. Alexander then calls up his guy and he's like, hey, I need you out of retirement. He's like, you fucked up my hands. I can't do shit.
I can't even drink out of the bottle.
Kick this tall, but I can't use my hands.
I can totally do Street Fighter moves, but I can't grip a box.
Yeah. He lives as a drunk above Danny Trejo's apartment. His restaurant in the apartment up above.
Yeah.
Along with this girl who is the daughter of Mr. Alexander.
Who looks a little bit like Radha Mitchell.
She is not, though.
She is not. I know that. I knew that for a moment. But she looks a little bit like Radha Mitchell, which is a point for you.
So they basically go between like 4 or 5 different gangs and like cartels and stuff, and all of them are like consolidating
cartel,
power.
the Crips.
The Crips, the 6-0s.
Well, that's what the Crips are.
Okay, the Alexander's gang.
Whatever the fuck they are.
There were like there was so many.
Constantine, whatever the fuck he was.
He was dead the first time we saw him.
We saw him earlier on, but he was like barely in one scene.
Yeah, well, there you go. I wasn't paying attention to that.
He was a guy who ran a chop shop.
Yeah, they talked about him. Did they ever show him?
Yeah, once.
Okay, all right.
Once. He was in there for like 30 seconds, I think.
So, basically, the whole thing is just them, like, all just staging hits on each other, trying to, get each other in power. until finally the third act comes along and they've kidnapped the daughter and Danny Trejo.
As one does.
Danny Trejo, before he's kidnapped, though, he gets the guy's hands working again through Mexican witch doctory.
And he stings his hands with the venom of two different types of scorpions. And re-breaks his fingers.
Yeah.
And somehow...
He's healed in 30 minutes.
Yeah, like he's actually able to like redo it and say, the venom and the adrenaline will help reset this. I'm like, guys... If anything...
It's how it works.
No, if anything, my whole thing is, like, don't even explain how it's supposed to work. If anything, he should just been like, he's like, what are you doing to me? It's just like, it'd be better off if you just let it happen.
You gotta trust me.
And it's like, just trust me. And of course... Like, the second half of it, like, the first half, he's like, yo, I'm a Mexican witch doctor. The second half of it, he's like, well, really, you're not. So it's like, you start off, he's just like, I will make you into a badass and whatnot. And then he's just like, I think the adrenaline helps with the fear. And
the first half of the movie, he literally isn't played for anything more than the restaurant owner. To the point where the drunk guy had to defend him.
Yeah.
But then it's like, no, actually, Danny Trejo's a badass.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
And then, spoiler, he dies.
Yeah, well, I'm spoiling anything anyway. So, yeah, he ends up being stabbed.
In a terrible way. We've seen Monster Hunter.
So then the Crips come and try to attack Mr. Alexander's place, and he's going full-on tactical assault team with his guys. Not the Crips, Steven Seagal's side. They're, like, staging everything. And almost everyone on his team dies immediately. Like, they are shit.
Dude, they hype up. They have this scene where he's like... I think Steven Seagal has all these guns from all these different movies that he's been in. And he's like talking to him about it and stuff like that. Maybe it's like his personal collection. He's like, smallest 45 ever made. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, some of them are pretty guns and all that stuff. But I'm like, what the hell are you sharing this for? And then later on... He's explaining, like, oh, they're going to roll up like this, and they're going to be like this.
The game plan map.
He's like, you're going to have you up here. He's like, we're going to have you pick them off. It's like, then you're going to start lobbing things from the roof. That never happened.
Nah.
So I'm like, maybe, guys, I think what possibly happened is that they wrote the script, and then they were trying to shoot it, and then they realized they ran out of money.
They had the location, and they're like, shit, man, nothing we talked about was working.
It's like, we can't explode things here. We're renting this space.
We can break that glass table.
We can break the glass table. We brought the glass table, actually, so it's probably a sugar table.
In the end, it ends up being just Ving Rhames and Steven Seagal.
And they're all, like, cocky about it, too. It's like, yeah, and then all of a sudden, like, 3 seconds in...
Yeah, it's like, all right, nobody shoot. And then he, like, throws something, gets the guy distracted, shoots him, and...
he throws a flashlight.
Yeah, he falls to the ground, releases the girl, and they're like, all right, I'm retiring. And he's like, oh, okay. He looks over at Ving Rhames. Ving Rhames isn't there anymore. And then it just ends with him talking about how he's retiring because he's a dinosaur. And
he got shot in the head.
I saw it more as a gray shot, but yeah, he was still in the head.
Fair.
So I don't think that that's a real ending per se. I feel like it was.
They wanted to make this into a franchise,
but I don't know where they were going with that because like it seemed like they were setting it up that the why in the fuck is his name so hard? Hearst. Hearst would be like taking over, but he didn't. And it also kind of seemed like he'd be getting with the girl, but he didn't. Like nothing happened at the end of this. It just and like they even said through a voiceover narration, the streets were clean for a while.
So that
why?
That also assumes that then
all that this left was a power vacuum.
Yeah.
Because nobody was in charge.
Yeah.
So this would have made things worse.
Much worse.
But hey, whatever. Okay, so where do you want to start with this? I mean, as a Steven Seagal movie.
I watched. Let me say this. I have seen a bunch of Steven Seagal films, though I must clarify that pretty much all of them were from the late '90s, early 2000s, like during like Seagal's heyday. So I probably saw him at his peak. If there is one here, there's a peak to reach here.
There's a rounded top. Maybe not a...
It's a little like Sisyphus. You just kind of get up to the top and you just kind of roll back down to the other side. But this is a very low-budget version of it. Now, Steven Seagal was the producer on this film.
Along with like 4 other people.
Yeah, but he obviously this was something that he helped put together too. Which I can't fault anybody for that. But... the problem was Steven Seagal is a type of actor that if you don't have the necessary budget behind it, the magic isn't there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. As weird as this might sound, it kind of is like Wesley Snipes is the same way for me as an action movie star.
Okay.
If it isn't, what's the word? If the resources and the other kind of talent is not there, the mythology that this guy's a bamf does not exist.
Well, that was the point that I made towards the end, was that people see Steven Seagal and they expect a certain type of movie.
Yeah.
But he can't really do that as effectively.
He has
anymore.
one note of personality. It's just whispering.
But he in this movie,
I don't think I've ever heard him raise his voice above a dull whisper.
In this movie, they basically make his assassin protege. They make him Steven Seagal.
They make him kickboxer.
They do all of the action through him. Sure, the other characters have some points. Bing Rames has some. Steven Seagal has some. Danny Trejo has a tiny little bit. They give the other characters the action, but the main drive is no longer Steven Seagal. It's this other guy, who I call Discount Colin Farrell. But
his name, by the way, is Bren Foster.
and maybe Bren Foster's a big name, but he isn't to me.
I mean,
But when it came down to the fact that we wanted to watch a Steven Seagal movie in order to do this, and
this has very little Seagal in it.
Yeah,
which is weird when you think about it, because all right, if Seagal is now I know in the film industry, people are given titles in movies for various reasons. Now I'm given being in the film industry and being a producer myself, I understand what different titles mean. Now, when you're labeled the title of producer on a film, that usually means that you have a large part in helping the movie get made. So this is something that you have more invested time in.
I can see that. I can see him having a big hand in this, but
that's the weirdest part, is the fact that he honestly plays such a very small role in this. He's only brought in to do these hack-eyed, choreography fights.
Yeah. Like, I'm sure that probably, like we said, most of that gun collection was probably, like, his personal gun collection.
Yeah, it would make sense.
Like, he probably provided a bunch of stuff for this movie, especially in the way of, even just, like, I don't know if this movie was made without him attached. Like, if they were going to make this regardless, and he came on and was like, no, I'd like to help you make this.
Well, the guy who wrote this has written a bunch of Steven Seagal movies. So.
This is probably a vehicle for him. But
Richard Beatty.
Sure.
Sorry.
Whatever.
I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong.
Thanks, Dick. So
and the other writer, this is the only thing he's ever written.
I feel like this movie...
Court 90B.
Okay, so correct me if I'm torn on this. We set out to watch a Steven Seagal movie.
Yes.
Because there is a certain thing that Seagal has that's not exactly great. Like, from a critical standpoint. It's just, we went into it looking for a cheesy sort of movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fact that this didn't have Seagal that much in it, still had his style, still had his tone to it, I don't know whether or not that is adding or subtracting to the appeal.
Also, by the way, the director of this movie has been directing Steven Seagal films since 2009. She's done, at least 10.
Which tells you just how many movies.
At least 5 or 6. Yeah, well, they crank out at least 2 movies a year, usually. Geez. Now, I will say one thing about Steven Seagal. Considering a man his age right now and still doing these types of action movies, I gotta give him credit for it. Even though the money and the kind of shine is no longer there on him nearly as much as it was in the late 90s.
I don't know. He's definitely still very shiny in these movies.
I mean, he is shiny. Physically, he's shiny. He's got a sheen here. He's got kind of like a... He's halfway to a Donald Sheen. Really. He's almost orange. But, I don't think Steven Seagal, or at least in any movies that I've ever seen him in, or any movies that I've ever like seen like advertisements and stuff for him, that he ever is any form of pretentiousness about what he does. He knows exactly what he does. I know that he had that show where he was like a sheriff or like a bounty hunter or something like that. I can't remember. I know also he's being known for like doing really weird things, like hanging out with Vladimir Putin and shit like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, but at the same time though, the guy still has a career. He's still making movies.
See, my thing is, I feel like there are two, like we said at the very beginning, we hadn't done any Stallone, Schwarzenegger, those sort of things. I feel like there are two branches of the action hero sort of thing.
I forgot he was also in Machete, the Robert Rodriguez movie.
But I feel like there's the Stallone, Schwarzenegger sort of, like, the 80s, best way I put it is like the glam action movies. Like the ones that are like the big tentpole, bam, the ones that everyone thinks of. And then you got the other side, the more niche, but like hardcore, I guess I would say. And that's where I would say like Van Damme, Seagal, Trejo all sort of fell into in that time period. And I feel like they kind of keep them separated. But right now, both of them are doing the same sort of thing where it's like, hey, what do you say we get the band back together every fucking like 2 years and kick out another movie? Except for Seagal's side, it's like, hey, what do you say we get the band back together next week and kick out another movie?
Well, that's the thing too. He has been churning out pretty much like at least a movie to several movies a year since like the late 90s or early 90s.
Yeah.
That is thoroughly impressive. There are very few people in the industry who is that consistent. And the funniest part about it is the fact that there is always a market for Steven Seagal movies.
See, but that's the thing. If you look at his list here of like everything
he's done movies that aren't horrible, actually. If you go to his films in the early 90s, and we're both kind of like looking on here.
Well, no, but like what I'm saying is if you look at his list of stuff since like 2000 pretty much, they're all the exact same movie.
Pretty much.
They're all literally, like I could switch around the posters on any of these. And you'd be like, yeah, that's fair. The one I'm looking at right here, Code of Honor, came out 2-3 years after Force of Execution. He is wearing the exact same outfit he wore in the third act of Code of Execution. The exact, in the poster. It is the exact backball baseball cap, same glasses, same neck scarf, exact same thing. Steven Seagal doesn't change.
You know what the amazing thing is? Think about this. How much money do you think this movie cost? Just kind of off the top of your head.
Are we counting like to get all the actors in, or just
everything?
Everything?
Yeah.
I would probably say it wouldn't be under $1 million.
Wouldn't be under, so you would say like maybe 1.5?
Yeah, I put that.
Whatnot. All right, so the movie that I most know Steven Seagal from when I was younger is his movie Under Siege, which is the 92 submarine movie. That movie was made for over $35 million, and it was starring Gary Busey and Tommy Lee Jones.
See, but that's where I feel like the actor's part comes into it.
Yeah, like the thing is, I'm thinking back of like you look at where he is now to look to where he was. It's amazing to see the decline. And actually, the weird thing is, it's kind of, and this is terrible that I say this because I love this guy. And actually, I don't care for Steven Seagal. He's never been an endearing person to me one way or another. His movies have never had that flair. I've never cared for like the James Bond movies, so of course I'm not going to care for Steven Seagal shit. Though I will say I did like Tom Clancy, but that's kind of tied in. But either way, it kind of also reminds me a bit of Danny Glover. Is that because Danny Glover starred in a lot of really great movies earlier in his career, and now he's constantly doing trash.
Well, I feel like that's just how Hollywood,
it's ageism. It's how older actors are kind of relegated to it. But still, there's plenty of strong actors out there that are still working A pictures.
Yeah.
So it's...
But not... How many of them were the big action stars back in the day? That's the thing. I feel like all the action stars
does Danny Glover only count because he was in the Lethal Weapon movies?
Yes.
Is that it? Really?
That's all that matters.
I mean, thankfully Mel Gibson stopped acting. No, actually, isn't he still doing stuff?
All right, so hold on. So we have gotten
way
into
off track.
A general conversation about how Hollywood treats older action stars. So let's back it up just to this movie.
This movie is kind of endemic of that.
It is
Emblematic.
But we need to focus specifically on the movie. When it comes down to this particular movie, like this whole thing started off with, we set out to find a Steven Seagal movie, and believe it or not, Netflix doesn't have that many of them.
No, there's only like 3 or 4.
There's a couple. There's a whole category if you type in Steven Seagal's name, but then it's Steven Seagal and fan favorites.
Yeah.
Things that are close to it.
Because at first we're like, wait, Steven Seagal's in this?
Wow, that's so many movies. He was in Face Off? No, he wasn't in Face Off. But that's
like, man, he's like one of the most eclectic actors of our age.
When it came down to trying to find a Steven Seagal movie, we knew what we were looking for, the stereotype of a stupid action movie that doesn't care about the plot. It cares about Steven Seagal beating up people for an hour and 30 minutes. And there was one scene when they are going to talk, like, to stop the war from happening, trying to talk it down. They go visit Iceman in his club or whatever. Literally, it opens, like, the scene opens with the guy, like, seeing them coming, going to talk to Iceman, the other, just, like, see if he can let them in or whatever. He's like, hey, so-and-so wants to talk. The other guy stops them, says, like, hey, man, can't go up there. And then he just spends 2 minutes beating the crap out of the doorman before the first guy comes back down. He's like, yo.
Hey, you can come up.
You can come up. You just had to wait 2 minutes. Come on, Steven.
Don't be so goddamn impatient,
You're just
right?
jumping the gun. You just got that little, like, mantis style. Just like, pah!
He thinks he's got mantis style.
If
he has any actual martial arts, it really doesn't show that much anymore. And was it you said that there was like one award for this, and it was about
stunt coordination.
There's
a British Columbia Awards thing called the Leo Awards.
Except for a couple instances, and also Brendan Foster has also been stunt coordinator on movies before, so he did his own stunts.
Yeah.
And which was good. I mean, it was cool to see that, but everybody else, for the most part, were terrible. Like, it was just bad. Like, there was so many times you can see that fists and shit did not connect.
Here's the thing. I feel like the problem being that they were trying to we both made the joke at that one point when the Vic Rames scene was when he did the high kick.
Yeah.
But he, of course, didn't. His stunt double did.
And his stunt double had a little bit of trouble, too.
But it was just like, I don't believe that as a character, this thug guy who's constantly has a piece, constantly like Italian, why would he do a high kick?
Yeah.
It just seems like they were throwing in the karate for the sake of, it's a Steven Seagal movie!
Yeah, and all these people know how to do it. I'm like, you didn't have, like, everybody has different fight styles. Yeah. You should have done that. I said this during the movie. I said, Ving Rhames, the way that his body type is, he's somebody who, I don't expect him to do karate at all. But I expect that if he punched me with a full weight of himself behind that punch, it would crack my skull the fuck open.
The Kingpin in the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie. That was that final fight scene. That was pretty much his fight. He wasn't like fast on speed or whatever. He was huge. And he was able to bring the hurt.
Yeah, that's it. I'm like, that was what I was expecting, but like trying to have him like pull off moves and stuff. And also my whole thing is this. He's supposed to be a Crip. Now, it's very common that there are people who have served in the military and have gone back to gang life afterwards, taking those skills and stuff like that with them. So some of this military stuff going into this gang life and all that kind of stuff, I can kind of buy. But all of these people knowing martial arts and karate and shit, I fucking don't.
Don't you know? Downtown has like 4 Cobra Kais, and they all go there on the weekends.
Kung Fu Kenny, man. Kung Fu Kenny. All right,
so I'll go final thoughts.
Yeah.
All right, so like I've said like 4 times already, we were just looking for a Steven Seagal movie. We didn't care like which Steven Seagal movie. We looked through a list of like worst Steven Seagal movies, but like we said, there were only like 3.
Yeah.
So
I picked the one that that seemed to have the most fun.
Wasn't it like 2 Kickboxer sequels.
Yeah, it was the 2 Kickboxer sequels.
And then this.
I think there was one more after that. But other than that, it was pretty much this.
Yeah, so we were like, all right, well, we haven't seen Kickboxer, so we'll just do this. So we were focused on just...
And also, the Kickboxers are supposed to be... That's Van Damme.
Well, maybe that's what we were looking at, because we did go through several people.
we were trying to see.
So maybe it was Van Damme. Point being...
They all blend together.
But
they're all the same.
That's pretty much the point, is that, like, we knew what we wanted to get done today. We wanted to do just a shitty little kung fu action movie, because we haven't done that. We haven't done Steven Seagal. We haven't done Jim
Carrey.
The only thing we've done in that sort of vein is Danny Trejo, because we can't escape that man as long as we live.
Danny, I love you, Danny, but you're in so many shitty movies.
So
call me, we'll work out a contract.
So when it comes down to this movie, I don't know how it stacks up among Steven Seagal. Like, it's definitely not his heyday. It's definitely after that, and like, it wasn't even much of a Steven Seagal movie. In regards to just general movie and not comparing to other Steven Seagal movies, it's pretty trash. There's no real plot to speak of.
A lot of titties.
It's all there for the action standpoint. You got real excited.
No.
When we got to the titty part.
It's like, oh, smart. And then after like 5 seconds, like, oh, wait, there's way too much.
Yeah. But that's
because it was just constantly focusing on the TNA.
But that's it, because I knew for a fact that they were going to the smut because of our law.
Our rules.
They had nothing else to give at that point.
There was no scenes that took place in those things. It was just like,
still,
all right, let's look at the flesh.
They were setting up the exposition still, but they know the audience isn't there for the story. They're there for the action scenes. Well, we can't do action scenes while we're talking about how things got here.
So let's show some titties in the face.
And I'm just like, this just proves there's nothing going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, this movie kind of, and this goes into my last final thoughts. Is like, this movie hits all of the very stereotypical Steven Seagal nails on the head. You have all of these setups. Like, one, he's like the most revered person in the story. Mm-hmm. He's thwarting another bad guy, but he's like I've done wrong. But it's kind of like what's the word? It's kind of the righteous criminal.
Well, that's what that plot said. The anti-heroes criminal network. I feel like the anti-hero was supposed to be...
There was no hero portion of this thing. He sold out his protege. He let him get all broken up. He basically was...
He's selling drugs across the entire New Mexico area, as far as we can tell.
He's selling drugs, and also he lets this guy fester for 6 months with his hands that are broken before he finally tells Danny Trejo to fix his hands.
Which he had the potential to do the whole time.
Yeah, why? What the fuck is even worth the point? The plot makes absolutely no fucking sense. I am all for watching mindless action if you at least give me a clothesline to hang the action scenes on. Transformers, the first movie, is a perfect example of that.
I would say the perfect example of taking that to the extreme, though, was the Crank movie.
Yeah, Crank.
It gave you the basic setup and said, here's why he's going to be doing nonstop action.
Okay. And that works. That worked exactly, and we got exactly what we want out of this. This movie, I don't know exactly what one can actually get out of a force of execution, but I don't really think that we got it all that much. So overall, the movie is just extraordinarily forgettable, even for Steven Seagal, and he looks like he was carved out of wood.
All right. And that was our thoughts on...
Force of Execution.
Hey.
Yeah. David. I've decided to hang it up. I've decided to retire.
You gonna retire, boss?
I'm gonna retire.
Retire?
Retire.
You can't retire.
I'm gonna retire.
Retire?
Yep.
Oh.
But I'm telling you this. Because the world is always changing. And I'm a dinosaur.
Well, I think I understand what you mean, boss. And I want you to know that I will take your place in protecting this neighborhood.
The neighborhood?
The neighborhood.
The fuck?
You see, I know you didn't ask me to be in this position. The world is changing. And I, too, am a dinosaur. A stegosaurus, to be precise.